I know Kim Plath says that her kids don't get to use the computer, and some of them have actually complained about their education. But do you secretly think that while her kids are outside playing and doing things like they live in the 1900s, she's secretly on her phone watching me on YouTube? Hi, Kim. Hey guys, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is the December 30th. It's Wednesday. Oh my gosh, you guys, there's only 2 days of this year left. I can't believe it's almost over. What an amazing year. Look at everything that we've accomplished on this channel this year. It's been one spectacular ride, and I cannot wait to see what happens in 2021. Now, for today's first episode, we're going to talk about what happened last night on Welcome to Plathville. Not all of it, just I want to dive into more details about what happened to Joshua Plath. But before we get into any of that, can you do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, subscribe down here if you have not subscribed, and turn notifications on so you know when new content loads or when I go live. If you haven't checked out my other channel, make sure you also consider subscribing to Katie Joy Live, where I vlog and talk about things unrelated to tea. Okay, so welcome back. Now, last night's episode was an interesting one. We saw Ethan and Olivia go do some tantric work. Yes, that's right. He brought her to a therapist to help get them more connected, to which Olivia called when during the session, when Olivia was asked to say one thing that she appreciates about Ethan, she said that she appreciated his humor. Ouch. Ouch. Ethan, for his part, said that she was his everything. There was a moment in this episode that we finally get into more details surrounding what happened to Joshua Plath. So if you're not clear about the Plath family, they have 9 children. And one of their children, Joshua, their 10th, passed away several years ago. In fact, 12, when he was only 17 months old. Kim had accidentally run over him while she was working on her farm with trees. Well, we never really understood or were given the full context of what happened that day because honestly, they haven't really talked about it in a lot of detail. Kim Plath documented her experience of what happened to Joshua 12 plus years ago on her family website, which actually now no longer exists. It seems as though the family's domain, theplathfamily.com, was either no longer renewed or they took the website down. But she had talked about how she had been working on the farm, working on trees, and she had believed that all the children had been accounted for and pulled forward and accidentally hit her son, who at the time was 17 months old. When the authorities arrived, there was an attempt by her to resuscitate. They were not able to successfully resuscitate, and he passed away. The authorities ultimately closed everything as a really unfortunate accident. Well, we haven't really heard a lot from the kids about their experience, about what happened with Joshua. And last night on the episode, it was really the first time we heard from the kids their experience about losing their brother, along with what they remembered from that day. So during the episode, they went to go visit his grave, and Micah and Mariah were the first to get to the grave, and they placed some flowers and talked about how, they remembered him. And Micah discussed, he thought about like what the family would be like if Joshua was still there. They talked about missing him, about what a happy baby he was, and really just overall the sadness they still feel about that day and feeling very stuck and trapped in that moment because it was so devastating for the whole family. Shortly after they get there, then the whole family comes. And so Kim and Barry arrive with the other children. And while they're sitting at the gravesite, Lydia is bending down and she's looking at his picture, which it's a very nice gravestone. There's a photo of him. It looks like they've done a really nice job sort of memorializing him. And Barry asked Lydia if she still remembers what happened that day. And Lydia was very clear that she did remember, even though she was very young. So Lydia, who I believe was the child that was just a little bit older than her brother Joshua, she would have been probably around 3 or 4 when all of this went down. And she said that she did remember what happened like it was yesterday, even though she was still very young. She claimed, so Lydia described it as this, that she got into the car with her mom, and her mom was in the car with her, Ethan, and Isaac. And her mom pulled forward because they had more trees that they needed to get to, and they heard a thud. And when they got up, and she said that she remembered seeing her mom's eyes sink and her stomach sink, she was knew exactly what happened when it happened. And she got out of the car, panicked, and picked him up and moved him out from under the car. So she said that it was such a tragic moment, and she still remembers it. And she said even though she's still young, she's still profoundly affected by what happened. Kim, for her part, said that after that day and when it happened, she carried such guilt that there were times that she wanted to end her life because she could not believe what she had done. She felt so guilty about not being more careful, about not accounting for all the children. And she ultimately said she stayed in this sort of cycle of that incident replaying in her head over and over and over again for months at a time. So she talked about how she felt very paralyzed after doing this. And then Barry, for his part, this is probably the first time we've ever seen Barry get emotional and cry. During his account, he talked about how when he found out about what happened to Joshua, his decision was that he was never going to make Kim feel bad for what happened. He was not going to ride her or make her feel guilty about what she had done. He said that he did not want to blame her because he knew that she was already feeling so guilty about what happened that nothing he could have said or done at that point would have made anything better. He also said that getting angry at her for this accident would not have helped the situation at all. So he decided to be compassionate to her and to not blame her because he knew that she was going to be harder on herself than he could ever be. But he still said that he missed his son so much, and it was just such a heartbreaking experience for everyone. Mariah, for her part, talked about how she still feels like a part of her is missing because Joshua is gone, and said that even while her mom sort of was grieving, she said it affected the entire family and everyone kind of just was stuck and stalled. And a lot of fans have suggested that maybe some of Kim's protectiveness is related to what happened to Joshua, and I'm sure that's part of it. It sounds like the Plaths are still deeply affected about what happened to Joshua, and I really can't say that I'm surprised. It's such a heartbreaking story. I cannot imagine any mother having to go through that, let alone you're the mother that caused what happened, knowing that it was a tragic accident that honestly could happen to anyone, and she is paying the price internally by consistently blaming herself for what she's done. So while I'm not always a fan of Kim and Barry, it was really, in a way, nice to see a more vulnerable side to them where you see this human component of them. You can see their emotions. You can actually see that they're not these completely closed off human beings. It's probably the most honest and authentic I've seen these two the entire time they've been on the series. It's just so sad that this is kind of what has broken that veil that makes you see them not just as these parents that are doing really, terrible things or not educating their children or keeping their kids away from everything. And you start to see a set of parents that are so deeply affected by the loss of their child that it likely has created a vacuum or a suffocating effect where they don't want anything to happen to any of their other children. And so they've done everything that they possibly can to keep their kids sheltered and away from everything so that they don't lose another child. And it's created maybe a ripple effect for the kids because ultimately they missed out on a lot of different things, but the parents still believe today that the way that they're raising their children is the right way. So this has also created kind of a effect between Ethan and Olivia and his parents, because Ethan and Olivia in this episode as well talked about how, you know, Olivia feels like she still harbors resentment for Ethan not standing up for her and allowing his parents to speak to her in a way that she felt was disrespectful. And she had a hard time moving forward. And so he ended up buying her a new wedding ring and an engagement ring because his mom, Kim, was part of picking out her original engagement ring. So they've cut off all contact with the Plaths. And so they've lost Ethan, and it was during this episode too that Barry said that he still has hope that they can reconcile with Ethan and Olivia at some point. My guess is there would have to be a meeting in the middle where both sides could feel like they're heard and understood, and I don't know if that's possible. But nothing is ever impossible. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are, guys. Are you surprised to hear how Kim has basically like blamed herself, or Barry's reaction about, you know, not blaming her and how it impacted the children? And what do you think about how all these years later they are so impacted by his passing? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.